Love, light, and rainbows to you, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to
Collective Frequency,
sponsored by
RadioWorldIndie.net, broadcasting from the heart of the world, and Tammy's Edge Salon.
My name is Tammy Blea, and my co-host is
Boom Shakalaka, because you can't say it without a smile.
Hope you're having a blessed day.
Yes, hope you're having a very positive and blessed day.
We have a very, very, very special program today. We have Renee LeBeau here being our special guest. She's an acoustic alchemist. Say hello and introduce yourself and tell us what Acoustic Alchemy is all about.
Well, hi, everyone. So Acoustic Alchemy, I'm going to start out from the standpoint of what's probably the most basic definition of sound healing is the practice of using both audio tones and vibrational frequencies in order to repair, release, and recharge. So basically, we're looking at the tissues, the organs, the cells, all the way the DNA in the body. It also works with the etheric field and the subtle fields. Acoustic alchemy takes it a little bit further. For me, the focus is about generating a sound field that allows you to embody and experience yourself more from your soul expression. So it's a combination of really four things: sound, light, geometry, and language. With the acoustic part being what's being generated primarily for people to listen to and focus on. So I use Tibetan bowls, crystal bowls, I have a hong, ocean drum, a rain stick, and then my voice.
On the language, is it spoken language, body language, both?
Well, it could be both. I haven't really... the sound field tends to be pretty deep for most people. I've had a few people actually move, but for the most part, movement has not been a part of the event. I probably had 3 brave yoga teachers use my 1 CD Metatron's Heart for yoga. I've had people practice with it. So when the language that I've been using is what comes through from the field, and so it's never English. I guess we could call it light languages. I don't tend to define it.
Yeah, like a soul connection.
Yeah, and I pretty much become a conduit of the energies around. So they can be ancestral, star beings, beings that actually have spoken on this and walked this earth. Gaia comes through a lot, and then specific frequencies will come through vocally. I never know.
Through when Gaia comes through a lot, is it mostly because those people need more grounding?
You know, it's funny. You're talking to someone that actually doesn't use that word, and for a long time didn't actually understand what people were saying when they used that word.
Okay.
But I get it now. But people do use it for different reasoning or different applications, kind of like the word love. You know, people use it and it means different things. So for me, the specificity of the languaging is helpful, because then people are making either a conscious or an unconscious agreement based on the energy, whether it's words or not. So it's really amazing to use. I use a lot of non-polarized languaging so that it opens up the field. People don't limit themselves, and by the very use of it, are generating greater consciousness.
How would you explain non-polarized language?
So, inside of what, if my goal as an acoustic alchemist is to assist in the evolution of consciousness, which it's different energetically than healing. Healing's another one of those words that gets used. But the way that healing's been used, it implies you're broken and something's wrong.
Yeah.
Can you feel the polarity there?
Mm-hmm.
And that actually becomes a limitation, a huge obstacle to allowing yourself to get past the self-judgment, which is probably the biggest thing that people strap on when they wear this human suit.
So it's just like totally connecting with source, being one light, being whole, period.
So there's no right, wrong, good or bad referencing at all. And just creating that type of energetic field allows, one, the body just kind of drops in and goes, ah.
I went to her seminar not too long ago, and it was pretty awesome. It was just like she was channeling the music down, and it's a pretty amazing gift to be able to do that. And I was like, God, I wish I had all those bowls and stuff so I could do myself at home. But yeah, it was pretty amazing, and you could just feel the language, if you want to say the language of just all that is, basically.
Well, you could start, it's not going to have as great as an effect as, like, a real singing bowl. You could just go out and buy, like, a 12 wine glass set and just fill them up with different waters. Yeah, that too. You can use a pan or a wok or a gong.
Do you think when we were kids and we were playing with the pots and pans, maybe that's what we were doing? Maybe we were trying to reconnect and play that music?
Or annoy your parents. I mean, it could go.
Way,
I talked around your question, so I'll come back to it.
Okay, yeah.
Gaia.
No,
I find that right now, there's the biggest misperception that I run into, and it's pretty consistent, is that Gaia requires fixing, saving, and healing, and that isn't the case. So if you work within a multiplicity of realities, she's moving along, and we get to be a part of her journey. A lot of times she'll come in to focalize the energy, to assist people in establishing a more resonant vibration with their experience being in a body, which is different, than other types of energetic experiences, because there's a relationship of the density of the embodied experience versus the light, sound, language, and geometry that you are when you're not embodied. Okay. So Gaia comes in a lot to really create that harmonic connection so that we don't have to choose either or. Because you probably know people that I consider are either top-downers or bottom-uppers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go back to what you were saying about polarity language. I always like to, me personally, use it as like an opportunity. So it's like, oh, you're broken, you need to be fixed. Well, recycle yourself or reuse yourself for something else, like maybe you're stagnant at this one time and now use that energy to use yourself differently. If you're broken, you can be able to help other people, correct themselves by correcting yourself,
Except,
stuff like that.
I'm just going to point out you're not broken.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I see where she's going. She's like, we've never been
broken.
Never
been broken, yeah.
So that's the connect. Because a lot of people, I toured for 6 years. I've been playing the bowls for 10. I've used my voice as an instrument for over 20. And people would always say, well, I don't have your gift or ability to connect. But they're thinking they don't. One of the easiest ways is to ask someone a question which connects them automatically. If you exist as wholeness, is there any way you could ever not be that? Right. So how do we reconnect? And based on your soul imprint and your patterning and what you are coming here to experience, your approach is perfectly aligned with who you are. And everybody gets to have their own approach, which hasn't always been allowed, because a lot of people get very regimented and they get in a groove. Well, if consciousness is infinite, then there would be no groove to drop into. There would be infinite paths.
Yeah.
Which is the beauty of the alchemy, because alchemy really is taking two knowns to create a third unknown. So now we're allowing people to walk into the mystery. But if you tell someone that they don't get to know what they're here to experience, that's a big freak out for most people. Now, it could be useful. could use it very similarly to what you just said. Get all their cells vibrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, too, you've been using your voice more than 20 years since you've been born.
Yeah.
Crying, speaking, and there's a lot of times, like, before you get to that point where you have your own self-realization, there's a lot of things that you've connected with people and you've touched them and not even known, And it's funny that you were saying, 2 knowns and an unknown. Like, I was thinking 2 nodes, like, you have 2 nodes, and when you bring them together, sometimes it's unknowed, because you don't know what's going to happen. Just like if you're in, like, some type of relationship, you come together, and you don't know what the outcome is yet.
Absolutely.
Dare I say, it's just magic, whatever the unknown is.
Exactly. No, that's exactly, and it could be notes. It could be creating a harmonic or a disharmonic.
Yeah.
Now, disharmonics are just as effective. People get fidgety. So the interesting thing about sound events is I get directed. So there's an orchestra that comes in my traditional sound events, which are about as unconventional. I'm surprised I used the word traditional. But people come in, they lay down or they sit, and they tend to relax their mind to the point where they may leave their physical form. They may travel, they may journey, and then they come back. But what I'm doing is the feel that they create, I'm listening to the group feel that they're creating. And none of these people have usually ever met each other. And if they hang around after the event...
have we?
Well, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, if we're in that same space, we've been attracted to that space.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And sometimes, people will share after the event what they experienced. And there tends to be, if people are willing to share it, there's always at least 1 to 3 themes that everyone has in common.
Yes. It's truly like a meditation. It really is. And we do that too when we have our meditation groups. Everybody shares back, and they're always in the same vision quest, or like say they're in the same land, or they were out in a forest where there was water, and they're in the same space at the same time, which is funny because when you are in a circle, you're building that field together.
Well, and the other thing that what I sense is different about the alchemy is it's also an activation. It can be very uncomfortable, and that's maybe what's required for the person to get to that next place. But also I invite people to bring energy in, because, I came through the 60s, so I have been in this body for quite a period of time. And there are segments of people that have focused for so long on clearing and releasing that they don't bring energy in, and there's a real receiving disconnect.
Yeah.
And you see that generationally. There's a whole generation of people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from unworthiness, feeling that they're unworthy, and it's like they're afraid to receive.
Right.
And it's like, oh no, that light is too much, or like, right. And I've noticed that a lot.
And yet that's a story. So how could I get people to acknowledge without using unworthiness? If you remind people they're whole, well, that's what the sound does. It takes every part of their being to, oh wow, this is me at the level of essence. This is what isn't me. And without having to go into the story, they can just drop it completely, because the frequencies will just wash away. And different instruments function differently, but every event is different. I used to try to plan them. Yeah, exactly.
Just go with the flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
I learned that from this guy.
No, never, ever went away.
So what got you started and interested in doing this?
Well, for me, it was the most normal way that I could bring me into form. Because I really was I was very tuned to very galactic, universal frequencies, and I wasn't really, I didn't have a strong sense of how I could affect the most change and touch the most people. My voice was not always this voice. It changed dramatically. But I was always able to bring other frequencies and sounds through my voice that had a profound effect. So sound was a gateway for me to be able to shift. From birth, I was very much a clairaudient, but I came in very oracular. I just knew things.
Yeah.
And you can spend a lot of time talking to people. I wanted some tools that were more about shifting people's realities without necessarily having to language it or therapize it. Because that can be another place where people get stuck, is in the therapy end of things, and not acknowledge their greatness. I think the biggest gift you can give someone is for them to remember that they are brilliant, and who they are as a unique frequency of source is amazing, instead of trying to be like everybody else. So it's, for me, it was getting people out of the guru thing.
Yeah, that guru thing is, we've been trying to break that for a while too, huh, Steph?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like you're saying, they're brilliant because everyone's light, so everyone should be brilliant light because we're all unique individuals, you know. And you're right, you just be yourself and flow, and it just comes overflowing, you know. And you can't help but radiate energy and, you know, matter to everybody and everything.
Yeah.
Well, and I think music and frequency are always going to be the ones that are going to shift everybody. That's the highest frequency. Even myself, I go on and I listen to gamma frequency just so I can I don't want to say clear myself, or I guess just remind myself of who I am. Because sometimes you come back onto earth and you're that hue man, and then you have to you're trying to balance it, but then sometimes the man takes over instead of the hue, and then sometimes the hue takes too much over, and so you're trying to balance, and then you forget, and you have to bring yourself back to center, and that's when right away I just go to gamma. Gamma's the highest. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. Sometimes I have to do the heart frequency as well, and you had a lot of bowls that were attuned to the heart frequency, which really helped a lot that day, and it was, I was watching people as they were ascending, and some people were trying to fight it, but there's no way of fighting that high of a frequency. And it's kind of funny because I'm thinking about all these movies, Star Trek, Star Wars, and how they heal people with just the frequency and how high the frequency is. And you really can't escape the frequency. The frequency's there, unless you just leave the room.
There's
but
frequencies happening right now that we can't, either they're too high or too low that we can't pick up on.
Yeah.
But we are picking up on it supernaturally.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, the other thing is that somewhere along the way, most people have learned to hold on to things, particularly if they're trying to understand this reality, which is, over time, very detrimental, because the porosity of your field, there isn't the balance of the inflow and the outflow. Because from functioning from a toric field, you know, the inflow and the outflow, it's just you're constantly in a state of fluidity and everything moving. When people get it mostly in their mind, they grab stuff and they don't realize that they stick it in their field and they're holding on to it, which now means you're not you. So over a period of time, and then you go out in the world. So there's a lot of not you that shows up in the field. And most of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions aren't yours.
Yes.
So sound's a great way of just like washing. People call them sound baths, and I was more of an immersion person, where it's like we're going to drop you in, and I'm the deep end of the ocean. So some people complained that it was too intense for them because we didn't walk them in. And that's okay, because there are people that will address it, and there's different ways you can use sound.
Well, and that was going to bring me to my next question. Like, how do you feel things have changed for the music that you create from back when you were younger to now, to this space now? Because I know there's been so many shifts, and how are people responding to that energy, to the frequencies?
That's a big question. Let's see. Well, the music revolution that I got to take part in, which was a revolution. The 60s was incredible. And heavy metal had a particular frequency. It was really great at knocking implants off.
Yeah.
Energetically or otherwise.
Very,
or imprints.
very grounding, very...
Yeah.
Yeah, boom, 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 yeah.
There was also, a change up after that. I would say that the frequency on the planet, as it kept shifting, it was more supportive of higher frequency experiences and for people to make different choices. To me, it would just be an innate, natural, organic way of tuning yourself, like you are a tuning fork.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see like this younger generation, they're using frequency as their music, and they already know, and they're tapped into all of this.
Yeah.
And it's super amazing because I can see a 17-year-old and they're DJing up there, and I've sat in one of their concerts and like, whoa, like like the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
Like it's just super amazing. I sit there, I'm going, how these kids just like know this stuff. Yeah. And it gets me so pumped up. Like, yeah, they know it. They're just bringing it on
exactly.
Earth. And it's just crazy. And I do know that like, I test people, which maybe I shouldn't, but I test people on the music that I play.
Okay.
And if they can't handle the high frequency music, I know that there's things that are attached to them that should not be there. So just by playing the frequency, and when I'm doing counseling and stuff, I let them know, try really hard to listen to the high frequency as long as you can. It's like an exercise for them. And the longer that you can listen to it, the less stuff you have attached to you, because unfortunately it's like static cling. We get stuff from everybody and everywhere. So by listening to the high frequency, it kind of shakes all that stuff off because it can't reside in that frequency. So
yeah, well, shifting people's consciousness. If they're trying, they can't do anything. So if we eliminate trying
and just do
and be,
exactly.
Yeah. So the human doing shifting to the human being. The other thing about the journey that I've been on is there was a lot of cracking open. So I certainly know that there's been a lot of what I would call really dynamic, active, breaking the field, shattering, and allowing something new to come through. And that to me was what a lot of the prior generations, including myself, was about. But it's also a really uncomfortable place to be stuck in, because you can start to identify with that as a role. And none of us are that. None of us are a role. And you can miss out on the next wave and the next wave and the next wave. And to me, music is that. It's an oscillating frequency, and you get to ride this eternal wave.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. Us being on this show, we listen to many different types of music, and it's neat to see how it's shifting, and how it comes in and out, and how everything's like actually colliding together instead of just being segregated. It's like all coming together, huh? Like country with punk rock with, it's like everybody's mixing everything together and collaborating it. Yeah. It's been pretty amazing.
I wanted to ask you, how do you feel like technology today, with the high frequencies of cell phones and computers and stuff like that we're constantly around that high frequency noise subconsciously, how is that affecting people from your viewpoint?
Noise. You said it. I would say that people are bombarded by so many different frequencies that the unconscious and subconscious tendency is to create a barrier. And they don't hear the way that I hear. Mm-hmm. And, it's not always easy for me to navigate noisy or noisier environments, because it's like a cacophony of, this is just too much sound. It can be distracting. But I would say, overall, I'm not on my cell phone all the time, and I don't put it, I have an earpiece, so I distance myself from it. I don't get that it's great for the brain. And since what I do does shift the brain and create different brainwave frequencies, spending too much time doing anything is not great. But too much time in front of a screen, on a computer, a cell phone, it's detrimental to the brain waves. It also entrains the brain to where it's going to get into a different groove, even if it's...
I've always believed that. I feel like since we've gotten more involved, at least my own understanding and my own experience, since I've gotten more involved with computers and technology, I feel like I have a really great memory, and I used to have an even better memory.
Yeah.
But I feel like now that I've been around computers and stuff like that, my brain has started to assimilate how a computer thinks and saves information. So things that I always thought were important, like I don't even remember now, but I used to be to the point where, like, when I first met Tammy, I would be like, I remember what you were wearing, what we talked about, where it was, blah, blah, blah. And now, like, my brain doesn't think that stuff's really important. I'm just kind of just like, oh, I know Tammy. Woohoo.
Well, and the other thing is there's always, the cosmos is always conspiring to allow us to tune in. And I'm going to call that awareness. So if consciousness is really about accessing awareness, it's always available. But if you've got this really noisy consortium of sound, whether it's your own mind and the monkey mind or your critical mind and all the ways in which people compartmentalize, then we add in the external sounds, other people, computers, cell phones, it's going to be a little more challenging to tune in to what your awareness is and be able to navigate from that. Intrinsically, to me, that's the guidance system, and that you could call it your intuition, but that's another one of those words that gets used to mean.
Yeah.
And I used to work at fairs, and people would always come up and ask me questions. Like when I was in Sedona, the woman that worked at the visitor center was giving out maps, but she didn't know what a vortex was, and it was painful to watch, because I walked in and looked at her, and I could just hear and feel her pain around, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm giving these people vortex maps. And she had been volunteering for like months. So finally I looked at her and I said, do you know what a vortex is? She goes, no, can you tell me? I said, oh, better, I can demonstrate it. So I said, just take a break and we'll go out in the parking lot. She was a changed woman. And she was like, well, how did you know that? I said, well, I hear people. Mm-hmm. She goes, so vortexes? I said, I don't see. I'm not really a visual. I just know stuff. But I could literally feel her discomfort. Imagine volunteering every single day, in that situation.
Yeah. And some people live their entire lives that way.
Exactly.
She had the opportunity at any time to ask somebody, use the internet or something,
Well, this was a long time ago, before
Encyclopedia Britannicas,
before Google, before Wikipedia. Yeah. And part of it, again, and this is maybe the thing that is the biggest thing that I've noticed, is that the more expansive that I'm functioning from, the more I become an invitation. So she didn't feel ashamed or embarrassed. What she shared was, well, I got this job and I was embarrassed to ask. Mm-hmm. And how many people, how
many people are afraid to speak up and use their energy?
Exactly. And even the words, I don't know, at some point, somebody figured out that we're all supposed to know everything? Well, what would be the point of incarnating?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Everything's just a lesson. I love Jimi Hendrix. Okay,
I do too.
Because we're on that human. We're on the human experience. Just have the experience.
Yeah.
That's basically what I felt when I was going through your journey. I was like, have the experience.
Well, and for a while, people that wanted to have the experience of doing drugs without doing the drugs, I said, just come to my sound event. And they thought it was a marketing pitch. It's not.
It's not. No, it's not. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, you'll be taken up way high and you're like, wow, I didn't even do anything.
But it matches where you're at. So if you don't want to have that experience, you still have free will.
Who doesn't want to experience life to the fullest, though?
Well, I don't know. A couple of weeks ago, we had a guy walk out of the event.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Oh, yeah.
And that, because the discomfort, you could
did
feel
he seem angry? Did he seem
Agitated.
Agitated.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
probably breaking up some stuff in him that
Exactly.
he wasn't able to fully get over.
Yeah.
Well, and then I went through this whole like process, and because I like to analyze everything, which I need to stop doing. But
High five, me
it's
too.
just I'm a Taurus. But yeah, he was so attached to all the elements that he had in his body that he didn't want to let them go.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people like what they have because it labels them.
Mm-hmm.
It's another security blanket. So, if I'm handicapped or if I have this disease or that disease, it puts you in a category, in a groove.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be taken out of that groove and just be. It really is.
Well, if the sound field can literally start shaking all of the identifying labels that you've attached to, which is part of your identity, but it's not part of anything else, that can be really uncomfortable. So it may not be the first time someone shows up. It might be the second or third. For each person, it's different. But it can challenge people because it's familiar. Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate thing, particularly in the Western world, and I would say it's an epidemic in the United States, people have become addicted to their pain
Yeah.
and suffering. And giving them a way out is so far out of their known universe that you may have to step them. Whereas the quantum field, which is what the alchemy, the sound field creates, the complete introduction to the quantum field,
Yeah.
there is no incremental reality. There are no steps. You have access to everything. It's this huge playground.
Like the lotus flower. That's where we're trying to that lotus and like see everything for what it is. And
So you get to have that experience. Or you get to have the one
The
where
3D.
you kind of engage. And I think most people have something in between. But most people really move a lot of energy. They shift, and eventually they'll shift their consciousness. Belief constructs to me are the big thing that is kind of the limitation. And again, the non-polarized language helps to undo that.
Okay.
I think what you're doing is really, I think it's really amazing. I think more people need to do what you're doing, and I think there needs to be more education on it. The sound healing is amazing. We have a couple of sound healers we've had on show before, but hers is super intense. It's really intense, and it just, to me, it moved me. It really did. It was kind of like Inga, I go see Inga's, and that helped me too. But you explain more, and you're there. You're there with everybody. So I thought it was pretty amazing. So,
What are some things that you've learned in your life that really have you experienced the next level of life? Like just a little thought
What a
nugget.
question. Oh my gosh. It's a good thing we're not on video because my eyes just went. Well, that the universe is a song. There have been times when I actually could tune in and hear the planets, the cosmology, and then this planet as she's turning and spinning, and then a group of people coming together and this vibrational field that they've created as a group. For me, since the mind can't ever understand infinity, allowing yourself to experience it, the challenge is once you go to almost grab it, it's gone. So for me, I've learned how to ride that wave instead of flying off the surfboard because I got so wowed that I wanted that to continue. It's almost like hitting a wah-wah pedal or a sustain. Mm-hmm. It's an unlearning of that, to just be with that flow and discover what is it exactly that opens that up. And can I be okay with it ending? Because there's a lot of, I would consider myself to be an energy junkie. And that has its own, yeah, exactly. It has its own cadence and rhythm. And yet, since I do have this innate ability and these unusual tools, one of my greatest atrophies is I'm not always okay with what's happening, and I can be really slippery, and I can go in and just change fields.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you think maybe you were going to grasp it and you couldn't, but do you think maybe in like a parallel universe or a multiple dimension you did grab it before your current self grabbed it?
Yeah, the other thing is I do function from more than one parallel realities, and I'm just now learning to function from one. And that was a holy shit moment.
Yeah.
In fact, not so holy shit. It was just like, you know how Oprah would have, Yeah, that was just like a complete breakdown of everything I'd ever known, was to function from one reality in one now experience. Because I would look at people and say, you have to be in the now. I said, but I'm in
the now in multiple places at once.
And and you could actually say that that's probably the baseline for many people being schizophrenic and having multiple personalities. For me to navigate that and then to bring it, to coalesce it and say, okay, so, what's possible if I function, you're less diluted.
Mm-hmm.
You could be more focalized in the energy flow. But what I found was that I would do that in events and I would do that in sessions with people. But in day-to-day life, there was this scattering of the field, almost like a prism. And I sense that a lot of people have that experience.
Well, I was going to say, I think people with schizophrenia, I don't think that they have a disease or anything like that. I just think they're functioning at that level, but energy is so intense sometimes that they just they haven't been able to, I wouldn't say control it, but be able to be operable with it.
Right.
And so it just starts just the energy shifting back and forth so strong, it's draining at times. And I think it just they get pulled back and forth, and they don't know how to fix it. Or if they do, they just can't. And it's just, then they get labeled as it's a disease, schizophrenia,
Well, it's also a strategy, and those labels that exist out there, if people come to me with those labels, my first inclination is to undo the label and give them permission to not have that identifier, because it's also a handicapping mechanism.
Yeah, it really is. I think
just like saying alcoholism or druggy or keep going back to that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, because when people say oh, I have ADD or ADHD, I'm like, no, you don't. First of all, we live in a fast-paced society. We're multitasking. We're functioning. Our brains are kind of like computers. There's energy everywhere. We're at that pace now where I wouldn't say you're in a groove, but a lot of people do get in these, like you're saying, these trends and, grooves. And, that's just how it is, And you just got to be accepting of it, that you're able to be functional in different frequencies at the same time and at different times.
I would say it's a non-cognitive, and they're functioning from new brainwave frequencies and new ways that are beyond the cognitive learning. So, therefore, the cognitive learning institutions have to change.
Yeah.
But the easiest thing is to label the kid.
Well, it's easy to use it as a crutch, too, because then you can always fall back on it as a comfort or fall back on it as a defense mechanism,
Yeah, because the truth is, as a multidimensional being, I'm constantly having 5 to 12 things coming through my brain, trying to all express at the same time.
Yeah.
My job is to figure out, to glean and to pull through, and then to choose what's going to be expressed.
We're all the same
Filter.
people
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
When I was little, though, I remember having all these thoughts and remembering a lot of my lives, and it was it was a lot for me, and then of course trying to deal with the 3D world, and your parents telling you you're going to go to hell, and that kind of stuff. And I remember my outlet was like pretending I was an opera singer, because I was telling you guys that part, because I liked the high frequency, and I didn't know that there was music like that. But my father was a musician, and he was a composer and transposer, and his trumpet was high, but it wasn't high enough. So I would take my voice high, because I always wanted to break glasses. I thought I could take it that high, but I'm almost there. But yeah, it goes really high. But it would like soothe me through times that were like so hard for me when I was a kid, because I was going through so much with my family and stuff, and I felt like I didn't belong here on earth. And I was like, what am I doing in this body, and why am I here, and what the heck is going on? And just feeling like I don't belong, like I'm just so weird, and after time goes on, you try to adjust into what you're in and what body and what's your purpose here on earth, and trying to deal with visions that you had, and music was the one thing that just could soothe me into what I needed to listen. Classical was my favorite, of course, because it's such a high frequency. But Mom and Dad thought I was the weirdest kid in the world. But yeah,
well, I also think it's a very coalescing. It brings you in, and then self-expression is one of the greatest tools we have. And to just take all of the shoulds off of the self-expression, that's amazing, because then you're not storing it.
Yeah.
And most people don't. I mean, what I've recognized over the years is, unless you come in to a more conscious environment growing up, most people learn to use their emotional body as a closet. They just stuff in. So imagine having a garage sale one day and opening it up to discover every single trauma drama that you've never allowed yourself to deal with. And in every lifetime. Exactly. So when people say, why did you do that? It's because I just couldn't stand it any longer, and I wanted the most efficient, effective
way to get corrected.
Yeah. Because people said, well, you're going to go through this. And I no, incremental reality. 1, it's too slow. 2, it's too slow. 3, it would take friggin' forever. We have a theme going on there, but it's just not effective, because why would you want, if it's something that you didn't want to be with the first time, dwelling in that is like asking someone to step into a cesspool, and then how is that going to get you back to wholeness? So the frequencies will collect it, and you get to just be okay with the experience. It doesn't have to re-experience itself. And you can use the breath. And I have found, as far as movement goes, breathing with the sound is probably the somatic connection, being able to go in and just be with that sensation.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we know you have some CDs.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes,
and
we do.
if anybody wanted to purchase them, how would they contact you, or are they on the internet?
They are.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, they're on the internet. I have a website. I'm going to spell it. I'll say it first. It's ahkana.com, AHKANA. And there's a music page and a creation page. So the physical CDs are on the creation page. The music page has all 5 with sound clips. So you can actually download them from that page, but you can listen to the clips ahead of time so you can get a sense of what's coming through. They're all very different in what they offer. Metatron's Heart is the game changer. It's a CD that will take you, and every time you listen to it, it will sound different, and it will journey you, and it will basically undo everything that you're holding on to without having to go into the story. The intention of that CD was to create Metatron's cube in sound, and we did it. And I worked with a genius, a sound engineer who is an acoustic genius. So that CD is a tool of consciousness. It's an amazing, we called it Sonic WD-40. It's wonderful. The CDs subsequent after that are collaborative CDs, and they were live events, but they turned out so amazing that we turned them into actual CDs. And the next 3 were actually a trilogy. So you first have Unveiling, Cosmic Awakening, and then Emergence. So it's sort of a 3-pack.
Wow, that's great.
And
Good tools.
Yeah, and then the most recent one was called Sonic Spiral, and I got to do that with a wonderful sound healer in Santa Fe, Rick Bastine, who played amazing alchemy bowls, didge. He had an ocean harp.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that was a CD. The 4 CDs all have the Hong, but we got to really play and create a big field of sound. And Rick has beautiful vocals as well, so we really had an amazing experience.
And
So-
do you do an internship program as well, or
Not yet.
not yet?
Not yet. No, but it's funny because people kept saying, they kept calling my sound events workshops, and I'm like, and it just kept getting that elbow. And it's like, oh. So I did a couple play shops, and people got confused. So I said, okay, if I have to, I'll call it a workshop. So I am actually leaning more towards the experiential aspect. And having people experience sound from their own knowing, and then have it be very. To me, it's kirtan with the universe. People have to be able to ask questions. I just really didn't want it to be an academic model, because you really can't teach consciousness.
Yeah.
Would you say that you would recommend? Well, I listened to some of your sound clips last night, but I immediately wanted to pick up my drums and sing and stuff. Would you recommend people also doing that with your play shops?
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Plus, I encourage people that are practitioners and sound healers to use them.
Okay.
To me, that's, if we talk about affecting people on the front edge of things, and then there's a trickle-down effect. But if the people that are facilitating other people get all clogged up, so all of the CDs can be used for all types. I've actually done acupuncture, craniosacral, hypnotherapy.
Wow.
Yeah. And, of course, massage. But I've gotten great feedback from all the people. And depending on where they're tuned and what their client base is, will affect what CD they choose.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the future for Renee LeBeau?
The mystery. That's where I get to be, keep breathing in the mystery.
The mystery.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
You're just being.
Yeah, and Albuquerque's actually been extremely interested in what I'm offering. So it could be that I come down. I had the beautiful experience of being able to play at Tortuga, which is part of a vision I had. Yeah, with playing in a beautiful setting with art.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty
Because
awesome.
that infuses the field as well. And, of course, Pax and Jill are great people, and Pax has an amazing sound system.
Yeah, he does.
He loves music.
Yeah.
Oh, he loves
And that's the other thing is that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what you're doing. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I think you will be traveling a lot with what your music has to bring. And I think a lot of people are more aware of what sound healing is, and not. And I know you don't want to put that label as sound healing, but
it's fine.
Sound awakening.
Yeah,
I guess that's what we should say, huh? Awakening.
Well, and for people to grab onto it, it's fine. We can call it sound healing because then people will know what it is. The downside about using a term like acoustic alchemy is I'm not going to hit the mainstream people.
Yeah.
What about sound pleasure? Because people like pleasure. Healing, they're kind of, I would say, they kind of get a little scared because not everyone wants to be
Well, when you use pleasure,
healed.
then people start thinking other things.
Well, in the United States, people have a different perception. As far as in the not too distant future, I definitely want to land somewhere and have people come to me.
That'd be awesome.
I toured for 6 years, and I have done things that are just inconceivable, and I really blew out my adrenals multiple times. And this last time, that was it.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, there's a current that you can follow, and I'm willing to travel, but I'd love to have a base because I'd also like to collect more instruments. And I can't even travel with the ones I have on an airplane.
Yeah, you have a lot
Yeah.
of instruments.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a lot of work.
yeah, 35 pounds of Tibetan bowls.
Yeah.
2 crystal. It sounds like a partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah.
7 Tibetan bowls, 3 tinctures, 2 crystal bowls, 1 hong, and 1 ocean drum.
And a very gifted person
Tibetan bells.
behind the curtains.
And there's that whole Jedi approach to getting through security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are not the bowls you're looking
Yes.
for.
Well, you're being listened to around the world.
Yeah, internationally.
Yay.
International. So, what kind of advice would you like to give all our brothers and sisters?
Visit the website and do take a look at the media page as well, because I do have the entire DVD, which we call The Oracle. It's available there. It's also on YouTube. And it was filmed at Star Dreaming, which is a beautiful, it's 22 acres of crystal labyrinths and formations south of Santa Fe.
Oh, wow.
It's exquisite. So you can go to Star Dreaming. I don't remember if it's .org or .com.
Dreaming or dreamy?
Dreaming.
Dreaming,
Yeah,
okay.
Star Dreaming. And you basically contact them, and they and you have your choice of times to set up, and they do tours, public tours, and you get to roam around the labyrinths. Highly recommend it. So, I do have 2 DVDs, and the other one is a double set, and it does have a live event that was filmed I did events at Santa Fe Soul in the Sunroom, and we had the pleasure of using their Venus and Mars gongs. So that got added in.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
so that was great.
High gongs.
Yeah.
They're so expensive.
I know. All these. This is people say, is this a hobby? I said, it could never be a hobby, because for me, the price point of the instruments
It's
are
expensive. Yeah, we were in Mount Shasta, and we saw some gongs that we wanted, and I was like, oh man, I wish I had the money for it. So expensive.
And bringing together people that are interested in sound, I would recommend, that people,
Everybody bring their instrument.
and get together and create circles of sound or drumming circles.
Yeah, circles of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do the drum circles once in a while.
But we always are like, if you have a didgeridoo, a flute, guitar, just bring it and we'll all just play together,
Well, yeah, because you notice in the drumming circles that you'll start off and there'll be a cadence, and eventually it just folds into something where, and nobody really has.
Well, I look at drumming circles as like, it's all the chakras functioning at once. If you just have just drums, you're just focusing really on one chakra.
Yeah.
But if you have someone like a didgeridoo or a flute, now you're opening up different avenues, different sounds that are resonating through your body differently, So it's like a group chakra kind of. Plus, you're all there together as a community, working, not only having fun, but also cleansing yourself through sound therapy.
Yeah,
music
absolutely.
therapy. And you don't have to be good at music. You just bang on the drum.
Exactly.
I
Go with
don't
the
want
flow.
to work. I just want to bang on my drum all day.
Or you get to discover that you really are connected to sound.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool too. When you just like, I'm there.
Yeah.
So
Well, any last words?
Last.
going?
Yeah, this has been really fun. I want to
Yeah,
say thank you.
Thank you.
For
To
coming
both
by.
of you. This has been
Yay.
great. And Patricio, thank you. It's wonderful to share it. I mean, that's really the whole thing, is just to create bigger circles, sort of like the never-ending, infinitely expanding flower of life.
Yeah.
Yep. That's our goal.
Yep.
Life is a big fractal party.
Well,
thank you very much. And everyone, go check out our website, Akahana. Akana. AKHANA.
AHKANA.com. I also have ReneeLeBeau.com. That one I can change. I have my sound events, has a little bit more biographical information and more basic sound healing information. I I'm running a dual platform. I don't know how long I'll do that for, but they're different, and they kind of address different functions and different groups of people. And one I can change myself, and the other one I can't. So that's the big thing. So to have a changeable platform, because
no, that's cool. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to the show today. It's been a wonderful, wonderful trip in this cosmic realm that we've experienced today.
Yeah, our show is a little different today, but it was pretty amazing. We got a lot of information.
I hope that you guys can tune in on the re-air and hear it again, because it's just amazing.
Yeah. She's a good educator, and she's connecting us.
So, love, light, and rainbows.
Love, light, and rainbows.
We are going to close with a song from our acoustic alchemist here. It's called Kiru, off of her Metatron's Heart album. This is the first song that we've ever had a cautionary warning. So if you're doing anything right now, please sit down or lay down, relax. Do not drive or operate machinery while listening to this song. Allow your body to be in a relaxed state with your entire being present, which means that also means your mind. So kick back, relax,
and enjoy the ride.
Peace.